Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. And we're going to go over how recruiters can predictably double or triple their pipeline of hiring decision makers without spending more time networking and cold calling. So, the first question I have for you is, are you like most recruiters? What I've found talking with recruiters is there's a big challenge in balancing the time from when you get a job search to when you fill that position. Were you still doing prospecting for new customers? Because most of our attention goes to finding that perfect candidate for our current client, but then when we're done searching, we don't have another search to go on. So it's a major problem in the industry and a major problem with a lot of recruiters, and that's what we're here to talk about. So, who is this for? Recruiters are having a hard time balancing, you know, um, between client development and recruiting. If you're looking to dominate your niche, if you're looking to get more retained searches, if you're looking for hard candidates to source, then you are in the right place. Recruiters looking to implement a proven game plan to get more opportunities with ideal decision makers. No more guessing. Companies looking for a strong inbound lead generation system where companies are coming to you rather than you always having to go for them. If you're kind of done with that sit and wait marketing, you're ready to go be aggressive, right? And recruiters that are just kind of all they know is that old playbook. So in the next 45 minutes, what we're going to go over is how to select a target market that is best for what you have to offer, how you can raise your fees and increase the quality of your clientele you work with, how you can really connect with your customers and provide the experience only a recruiting expert really can, and how to establish yourself as an authority in your market space. And last, but how are we going to keep these people coming back and making it an obvious choice to stay with you and be a customer for the lifetime? So, pretty much everything you need to know so you can build your business into a legitimate brand and be seen as the authority in your specific market. And this webinar will give you a clear path on how you can do that. Does this sound like you? Inconsistent referrals for business growth. That's what you've always relied on. And referrals are great. We all know that. But when it comes to really scaling our business and getting to the next level, referrals can only take us so far. So that usually leads to an unpredictable revenue stream. And it's hard to get a predictable revenue stream in the recruiting industry from month to month. But from year to year, you should have a pretty good idea of what you're striving for and what type of growth goals you can obtain. But when you're relying on relationships and referrals, very tough to do that. And a lot of the time, what you're doing is you're networking and going to traditional trade shows and doing traditional marketing of print advertising and posting ads here and there and wherever. You also have a hard time sourcing quality candidates in this competitive market. That's one of the biggest challenges that a lot of recruiters are facing right now is that there's just not a lot of quality talent that's out there looking for jobs. So we need to be able to find a way to hit some of these passive candidates. The last thing is, you've heard about this digital marketing thing, but you haven't seen it work, or you don't know where to start if you haven't even given it a try at all. This is what I refer to as the old playbook, right? Referrals, ask and you shall receive. Should it be a part of the playbook? Absolutely. But at this day and age, there's a better, faster way to grow your business. Cold calling, smiling and dialing. I think that's probably one of the biggest time sinks that every recruiter I talk to deals with is balancing, the time in the day that they're using cold calling or using some of their employees to cold call. It's kind of a dated model. Does it work? Yeah, sure, it works, obviously. I mean, people have been doing it for years, but is there a better, more effective way? Absolutely. We just kind of hit on it. Attending networking events, whether it's trade shows or industry events or whatever it may be, just a traditional networking event. Time consuming, slow process, one at a time, two at a time. When's the last time you went to a networking event and hooked up with 5 people you can do business with? Rarely ever happens, right? Onesie twosie game. So slow growth. Traditional media advertising, right? You've got your newspapers, magazines, trade, industry trade magazines, all those different types of things, ads on job boards, all these, different ways. These are all things that traditional recruitment companies have done. And then the last thing is, hey, if you're not getting more business, then what do? Well, you just work more hours. And that's not always the best way to go about growing a business. So, For recruiting businesses to be successful, there needs to be three things in place. One is the ability to attract top quality candidates, and your clients need to know that you have that ability, and you need to have a loaded pipeline of decision makers to constantly engage with, to follow up with, to see if there are opportunities, because people aren't always hiring. So the loaded pipeline is an absolute key. And the third thing you need is an authoritative presence in your marketplace to differentiate yourself from the competition. There's a ton of recruiters. How do you differentiate yourself? So if you have these three things in place, then growing a recruiting practice is going to be quite a lot easier if we can get these things right. So that's what we need to do to get it right. But what is the toughest challenge recruiters face today? Well, that challenge is obscurity. The state of being unknown, inconspicuous, or unimportant, right? And the reasons for this obscurity is, one, because there's a recruiter on every corner. There's recruiters everywhere. You don't have to, a client, potential client, or somebody who can give you a new job search certainly doesn't have to go looking for you, because all they have to do is sit at their desk and they get 4 or 5 calls, emails a day. So how do you differentiate from that? You're sitting there waiting for them to come, and it just doesn't work that way. So we need to force ourselves into them. So, you're doing nothing to differentiate from the pack. And we just kind of talked about that. But if you are just another recruiter saying that, what makes you different is you have a unique way of understanding these certain positions, well, I can tell you that I talk to hundreds of recruiters, and that's what everybody uses to differentiate themselves. Well, I really understand what the client needs. Well, so does everybody else. So now you're just like everybody else. And you're still operating out of this old playbook. Nobody can find you in the old playbook. So the answer is really to create a voice and put yourself in front of your decision makers. When I say create a voice, is become that authoritative figure, become somebody who the decision makers are going to look to, not just for search, but for other quality industry insights. Become the answer for them in all ways. If we're going to try to go and engage with a new employer to try to get a new job search, it's probably important for us to really understand, what are these employers investing in, right? Because they're not just relying 100% on outside recruiters. They're doing some new things. So career websites for big companies are big now. They're now starting to use applicant tracking systems. They're doing social recruiting. They're using job boards. There's the mobile, right? Mobile, whether it's a career website, the ability to apply, and of course they're obviously investing in outside recruiters, people we're talking to right now, right? But if we aren't doing any of this, or if we don't even understand any of this, what does it give the client any reason to engage if they've got a better digital presence than we do? And they have a more effective, possibly more effective way of attracting candidates than we do. You got to ask yourself that question. You got to know what these employers are doing and what is the way the industry is moving right now. So what is your competition doing? Well, social media for recruiting is huge, continues to go up. It's gone up the last 6 years. 94% of recruiters use it right now. LinkedIn is obviously the obvious platform that everybody's going to. 89% of recruiters have hired somebody through there. And, 79% of job seekers use social media. And these, as the younger demographic continues to, enter the job market, that number is only going to go up. The biggest challenge in the industry, according to recruiters, is really just the lack of skilled candidates. We hit on it earlier. So you have to be cutting edge to be able to attract people. A lot of the old ways of doing it, is a challenge. So you have to be innovative. You have to be doing something different, because attracting talent is not just something that is hard for you. It's hard for a lot of people. 45% of recruiters now have a mobile career website. So that's not even half. Close. It will be by next year, but you can see that there was already a 8% jump last year. So if there's another 8% this year now, what does that mean? Well, there's still opportunity for you to jump ahead of most of your competition. Mobile is big for the actual candidate. And so if you're going to be, what do candidates do? Well, they scroll their feed, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever their social media feed, whether in bed or even the restroom. So 70% of the global workforce is made up of passive talent who aren't actively seeking jobs, right? So how can we tap into the passive talent, right? And that's one thing we're going to really figure out here in this webinar. Branding tools are effective for company websites, online professional networks that helps attract quality candidates. New employees sourced through LinkedIn are 40% less likely to leave the company within the first 6 months. So we know LinkedIn is just a great resource if you know how to use it. Social professional networks are the number one source of quality hires. So again, the point here is the competition's using social media, and it's not just using social media, it's learning how to do it effectively, because you can waste a ton of time. And again, a lot of the approaches is just to seek out one person at a time, and that is just very time consuming stuff. We've got to look at some automated ideas. There are 6 transformational shifts that you need to make happen if you want to see your business grow. And that's what we're about to dive into right now. But before we get into that, my name is Donnie Gupton, and why would you listen to me? Well, I'm the number one digital marketer in the staffing and recruiting industry. I'm coming into this industry with new ideas, really breaking the chain of the old stuff, and really helping businesses stop being the Me Too type of business. I've spent years and a ton of money figuring this digital marketing stuff out. I've grown multiple businesses, multiple $1 million businesses using digital marketing. And I'm really just following my passion. And, right now what I do is I assist recruiting companies with client development and candidate sourcing. And I've grown my business, my marketing business in the first 4 months to 6 figures, using the same strategies that I would be able to help you implement into your business. So proven track record here. Let's dive right into this content. So the first thing that we need to have as a recruiting company, as a recruiter, is a clearly defined target customer. Talking with recruiters, most recruiters are generalists and try to appeal to everyone because they're so desperate for every lead. And one thing that's kind of hard to get somebody to wrap their mind around is you can recruit for everybody forever. And that's not the problem. In fact, most recruiters that I speak with, they say, hey, look, my process can work across multiple industries, and that's great. And a lot of there could be some truth to that, without a doubt. The challenge with that is when it comes to marketing, you can't really speak a clear message to anybody. And that's really where the challenge becomes, is because now you're trying to appeal to everybody, but you're appealing to nobody. So can you recruit? Can you do your job? Absolutely. But can you market? Can you get new customers? This is where the challenge of being a generalist really comes into play. You have to find a way to differentiate yourself. And by focusing in on a certain industry, for example, it allows you to really easily understand that industry and become that authority and become beyond just a search guy, right? So, if you clearly define a market, you will watch and see how easy it is to talk to these prospective customers now and talk to your market, because you understand it, you know what their problems are, right? So when you're thinking about what market you should go after, well, what markets do you understand the most already? Where have you had the most success? What markets do you enjoy? What is maybe the most profitable, right? These are all things that you can kind of go over to select a market. The other thing is it's not always about pigeonholing yourself into an industry niche. You don't have to be in healthcare or hospitality or things like that. That's a great way. Defining a niche can be done in multiple ways, and one of them, beyond, an industry can be you do it based off of the positions that you search, the type of candidates that you source, a geographical location, a certain size of a company that you go after, right? Some way that you can communicate that you work with this type of business so they gain trust before they have to talk to you. So, you don't have to get into, right now the big buzz is to be industry focused only, and that is very advantageous, but it's not the only way to select a target market. So now you have your target market selected. Now what next? Well, now we have to develop our unique selling point or unique selling proposition. This is the statement that's going to separate us from our competition. So there are 4 questions you can ask yourself to develop a unique selling proposition. The first question is, why should I listen to you? The second question is, why should I do business with you instead of anybody and everybody else? And if you can answer those 2 questions right there, that's a great start. And then what can your recruiting services do for me that other recruiters do not, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're searching for people and we're placing people in seats. So this is where it becomes kind of tricky, but a lot of recruiters now have a very unique methodology. Well, let's put that methodology out there. Let's put this into our USP. We have to differentiate. Are you guaranteeing anything? And it's not always about, the 90-day guarantee. If the candidate doesn't work out, what else are you guaranteeing that your customers will experience, right? So really dig deep and ask yourself these questions, and ask yourself these questions with your market in mind, right? And that's why we have to choose our market first, so we know exactly how we're going to create our unique selling proposition for that market. So let's take it a couple examples. So here's a good format you can use to create a unique selling proposition. We help niche vertical solve problem with our service. Right, so if we were going to go with a very vague example and not a great example, it would be we help companies grow their business by marketing for them. Well, is there anything there that differentiates? No, there's absolutely not. So if we go into my USP, it's helping recruiters, calling out my market, execute a winning digital game plan. Okay, that's my service basically, to help them grow their business, right? So that's what my unique selling proposition is. I'm going to help a recruiter grow their business by executing a winning digital game plan, right? And so that's how you can kind of put those things together. You can see that those are swapped around, but those are some examples of a unique selling proposition. So what you do now, you have this unique selling proposition, and what you do now is you're going to create content basically to support this unique selling proposition. And this content is, again, it's designed for our market, going back to why we chose our market. You want to create informative content geared to your market so that you can speak to them and provide value for them. So how do you do that? Well, you speak with a lot of people. If you've been in the industry for a while, a lot of these ideas and things will come pretty easy. You got interviewing questions, things to look for in candidates, all different types of value. But the number one thing you can do is visit forums and blogs that are related to your market and see what people are talking about and answer some of their questions. If you know what the industry challenges are, then show them that expertise. You could do a webinar like this, but it could also just be a simple white paper. It could be a simple blog. It doesn't need to be anything elaborate. We just need to get content out there. Now, when we get our content out there, the one thing you want to focus most of your energy and your time on is your headline. Your headline is everything. If you want your content read, then half the battle is getting people to click on it. And the headline is what does that. So you want to spend a lot of your time on your headline and really crafting out a headline that I think the best headlines really call out an industry. How recruiters can predictably, right? How recruiters can predictably double or triple their pipeline of hiring decision makers, right? So calls the industry out, and we know exactly what we're trying to get done with this webinar, right? So now we go, what I use is a 90-10 principle, right? I like to post informative educational content 90% of the time and only promote my company or my services about 10% of the time. So when I'm showing up in the marketplace, I'm showing up in the marketplace as an authority and somebody who's educated and somebody who understands their business, not just like the next guy who's saying, I'm really good at what I do. Hey, I do recruiting. Hey, I'm really good. I understand your position. Well, guess what? So does everybody else. So these are things that you want to put around your unique selling proposition, is supporting content that talks about your market, that shows your understanding, that basically can really help your market. What this allows us to do is it allows us to charge more. You need to increase your fees with any new client you can, or at least try to raise them annually. Whatever your positioning is, there's different strategies in there. Sometimes we go low to raise high. Sometimes we go in high to come down low. That's a personal preference, but marketing positioning allows you to charge more. So if you go into your market and you go to your client and you truly are the best and you have the supporting content and the supporting expertise to show that, and you can provide value to your market beyond just search services, clients will pay for that value. And there's nothing more important than that, than being able to display that value. And then you're not scrambling to just recruit on anything and everything, because that's all you have. You need to load your pipeline so there's a demand where you actually end up turning people away. Hey, look, I can't help you with this. This doesn't fit for me. I don't have enough time, right? That's the dream. And again, I'll go back to the statement. Provide value to your market beyond your search services. That's where the money's made. If you can do more than just bring candidates to the table, then you are now separating yourself from the competition. So we have a killer target market defined. Our USP is polished. We've got multiple supporting, pieces of content that we're going to put around that USP. So now, how do we get that stuff? How do we get this message in front of our decision makers? Well, here's our platforms. We've got Google Plus, we've got Twitter, we've got LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Alignable now. I mean, there's a million platforms, right? And so when we're talking about specifically about clients, obviously probably the number one source of place to find clients is LinkedIn, right? And social media ultimately is designed to engage and interact with others. But when you're talking about client development, the ultimate goal is to get them to become a customer, to get them something you can do a job search for, right? I mean, that's what we're out here to do. So what your number one thing to do is to find out where your market is hanging out. Well, we know for ourselves that the majority of our market is going to be on LinkedIn, right? But again, like I said earlier, it's not just about being on a social site. It's about properly engaging with them. So now we have this great content that we can now engage with them that is going to be different than your average recruiter or even average business, right? So what we do is we create a content publishing schedule. And that's how we truly connect with our audience, is we keep putting this stuff out on a regular basis and try to get it right into the decision makers' hands, get it right in front of their eyeballs, and give them no reason not to read our stuff, right? We have a compelling headline, we're talking to our market, it's a slam dunk, right? So, the content publishing schedule really gives you the legitimacy that you're there to stay, and, you're constantly showing up. So, keep in mind, every time you post doesn't need to be a completely new article. You can post articles in your actual social media post. You just put in different topics of the article to try to get attention, to try to get people to that article. You don't have to always have an endless list of things to do, and not all the stuff that you post has to be your own. Certainly not saying to go pump up your competition, but if you have industry insights from a trade publication, those are good things, topics that you can get in front of your market as well, just to stay active. So this is where we kind of get into the new playbook, right? We just talked a lot about social media. And we also talked briefly about a website, but your website nowadays, you need to have an easy way for a candidate to be able to apply. If you're a staffing agency, you probably want to have a job board up there so that you can get candidates to actually take a look at specific positions. But the one place where recruiters usually fall short is a system for clients to engage with you. And so with websites, you really need to create these things into, right now that's a big brochure. That's what everybody does, is they think they create 20 pages of content. It's loaded with a bunch of stuff. And I want to ask you, when the last time you went to a website and probably read more than one page of actual content? I'm talking about a whole page, every word. Probably haven't, quite honestly. It's just not how we operate. So your website needs to be really set up for your market so that you know exactly what action you want them to take when you get there. Now you have all these other traffic driving, paid traffic driving, methods. You have Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, organic search like search engine optimization and search engine marketing. If we're just talking about the ad platforms first, Google ads can be a very, very effective method. But how many clients do you think are searching Google when they have recruiters reaching out to them all day long? I would venture to bet not a whole lot, right? The Facebook ads is different. Facebook ads is interruptive. It's not a waiting game. It's a put in front of the face game. So Facebook ads can be more effective, but you really need to know your audience for Facebook ads to really be effective. Now, LinkedIn ads, I'll be honest, I don't even really mess with them. I haven't heard anything good about them. I heard they're overcharged. And I'll bring up one key point. And this really varies, but I just surveyed a small room of about 20 people, and there was about 2 hands up when I said, who in here actually scrolls their LinkedIn feed more than once a week? And 2 people raise their hands. Now that's a very, very small sampling, I understand, but ask yourself how often you scroll your LinkedIn feed. And that's where a LinkedIn ad comes into play, right? So a lot of money wasted there on LinkedIn ads, in my personal opinion. They haven't really dialed that in yet. Search engine optimization is, again, you're kind of waiting for somebody to sit and search, and it can be expensive. Is it a necessary part of the game plan long term? Sure, absolutely. But depending on where you're at in your business, you really need to make decisions on which of these things you're going to invest in. Right now, email campaigns is something that recruiters have been doing for a long time, but there's a difference between effective email campaigns and not, and a lot of that has to do with first off, who are you actually emailing, and is this list active? So those are the things you really want to pay attention to with your email campaign. But that's kind of the new playbook. These are all digital methods that we can do to constantly keep ourselves top of mind and in front of our customers digitally. The next thing is really just building out a sales funnel. So what we want to do is we want to put together some sort of an ad or piece of content, and we want to have that content take them to some sort of call to action. And when we're getting into an actual sales funnel, the whole goal is to have an attractive ad, get somebody to opt into that ad, and then schedule a meeting with you digitally without you even having to be involved in that scheduling process. And then ultimately you showing up to that meeting and turning this prospective, lead into a prospective client who's going to give you some job openings to work on, right? And so, as you guys all know, that the recruiting industry does not just work like when you reach out. Doesn't mean that there's a need right there right away. The majority of companies aren't hiring all the time, and even some that are hiring don't always use recruiters. So this is really a way to get your foot in the door and really nurture these processes all the way through. When you're thinking of things digitally, it's not a whole lot different than what you would do offline. It just allows us to do some things faster and more efficiently. But a lot of the basic principles that you've been using to grow your business for years are still going to hold true. We're going to use the same things and incorporate both, right? So the sales funnel is great because you can literally have this set up constantly live and on the web somewhere in some platform, and you can wake up on Monday morning and next thing you know, you've got 2 new appointments on your schedule and you've never even interacted with these individuals. So it's very, very powerful. So the last thing is you want to display your power. What does that mean? Well, early on we talked about what our potential clients are doing for themselves. Well, they're doing a lot of the things that you can do, or maybe you're not doing. Maybe you're still using a lot of old traditional recruiting methods when it comes to sourcing candidates, of tapping your old databases, looking for referrals of new candidates. And now they've got these more effective ways, or working on these more effective ways to do just exactly what you do. So you need to display your power, and you need to show them that you understand how to attract the best candidates, right? So, companies want you to, want to know that you understand their positions you're recruiting for. And ultimately, your job is to put the best body in the seat at the end of the day. And that's you being able to deliver. But when you know how to leverage digital in your recruiting efforts, it's a complete competitive advantage. And so if you can teach and show your clients that you understand the digital game and that you have a system put in place to source the best candidates, passive candidates and active candidates, now you are separating yourself from the competition. You're displaying your power. You are a cutting edge company that knows how to do the best things. Now, I'm not saying that you necessarily know how to do this right now, but now that you've been on my webinar, you know a guy that does know how to do this, right? So there are ways that you can get creative with your candidate sourcing other than just your own efforts. So displaying your power is extremely, extremely important. Let's review this real quick. Clearly defined our target market. We found out who we can work with based off of what we're good at and what we really enjoy. And now that we know that, we can create a really powerful, unique selling proposition to really separate ourselves from our competition, and to further separate ourselves from our competition and to create value for our market. we're going to create useful content that supports that unique selling proposition. And we're going to get that message, in front of our decision makers all over the web in all different fashions. Okay. And then we're going to create a sales funnel so that you can wake up on a daily basis and have new appointments in your inbox. And the last thing we're going to be able to do is we are going to display our power to our potential clients so that they know that we understand how to digitally attract the very best candidates for their business. So, question, what would your business look like if you were able to easily implement these 6 transformational shifts for business growth? Well, here's what it looked like for Scott. I started working with Scott a few months back. Scott's been in the recruiting business for 10 years. He's very focused he's a former veteran himself. Thank you for your service, Scott. And he focuses on recruiting for veterans. And so he was in the high 6 figures and wanted to get over $1 million. And his biggest challenge is he just had no time for business development. Scott loves sales, loved the sales calls, but he did not have the time to go out and actually get these leads for these calls. And when I started speaking with him, he had actually tried a few digital methods. And so he was very skeptical because, they had failed. But he had given me a shot. And in the first month, we were able to get him 3 new contracts with 1 open search. And, you guys know that with, an opportunity like that in 1 month, if he can work those 3 companies alone, that can boost him right over that $1 million mark. So here's what Scott had to say. And obviously, I don't expect you to read all this. This is on my website. I would recommend his services to anyone struggling to find the time to grow. So we implemented these shifts for Scott, and that's what happened to him. Now let's talk about Shanna. Shanna's on the opposite side of the spectrum. Shanna's an independent recruiter, and when her and I started talking, she had a need for candidate sourcing. She was actually searching for nurses here in Santa Clara County, where I live, randomly. She was across the country into Florida. Here I am in California. Love this world that we live in nowadays. And so, she had heard of new strategies and, but didn't really know how to use them. She really had no other time to work doing more. She was, one person show, so there wasn't really any more she could do from the recruiting aspect. We decided to work together, and in our first month, we had, multiple calls with candidates, and 3 of them turned into placements, and followed up the second month with multiple more placements and calls. So Shannon and I continue to work together, as well as Scott, and we're continue to make growth in both of their businesses, and both of them are using similar strategies that I used to engage with them. So, they're using these 6 transformational shifts in order to position themselves in the market and get more, either clients or, in Shanna's case, to get more candidates. There's very effective ways to doing things now in this digital age. You've watched this webinar, and now you have 2 paths that you can ultimately choose. The first path is you can kind of run this rat race on your own and go at it alone and spend tens and thousands of dollars trying to figure out this digital stuff. And really where your strongest suit is in recruiting. That's how you make your money. But you can take the time, and you're going to, you got this webinar, and you can watch this whenever you want. But, ultimately you could end up wasting a lot of time. Or you can choose to learn from somebody that has a proven system and can cut that learning curve for you, and can cut that, a lot of the time that you're facing, the balancing, can pick up the slack for you. You want to work with an expert. There's definitely no shortcuts in life, but if there is one, it's working with somebody who's already achieved what you want and can give you that path and that proven process. You definitely want to keep in mind working with an expert. If you were going to build a house, are you going to watch a bunch of YouTube videos and try to get it done yourself? Or would you just hire an architect, a builder, who can help you plan it and just let them build your house? There's no real reason to reinvent that wheel, right? You invest in the experts so that your house doesn't fall down. Now, why do top athletes work with health and strength consultants? Well, because they understand return on investment. They understand that, even though they're the top athlete, they want to be the best. And so they're trying to get every competitive advantage that they can. You can get more money and more stuff, but you can't get more time. So the smartest investment you can make is making, an investment with someone that can accelerate your progress and get you where you ultimately want to go. What do they say the definition of insanity is? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. And so you kind of have to ask yourself this question is, you've heard a lot of these webinars, you've heard a lot of these videos and these courses and all this stuff, but are you ready to take action? Or are you going to be that insane person that thinks their business is suddenly going to change when you're doing the same things over and over again? If you really are looking for business growth, you need to change what you're doing. You need to stop being insane. If you want to double or triple your pipeline of hiring decision makers without spending more time networking and or cold calling, then we definitely need to talk. So I've set aside some time over the next few days to do a strategy session with you that's absolutely free. I begin by actually listening to you. I feel like it's a malpractice for a lot of people that come out and just offer you a product or service when they don't even know what you have going on. So it's very important for me to understanding about what your business is, and I'd like to find out what your challenges are in your business, what your sales goals are, what your business goals are, what your long-term vision is. Ultimately, what do you want to accomplish with this business? And then at that point, we can kind of come together with a marketing strategy to help get you there, get you some action steps, and see if what I have to offer actually can work for you. If you want and or interested, then take a look and click the link that's below and schedule a strategy session so that we can get on the phone and do these types of things. Now, what are the benefits that the companies that are working with me get? Well, they get introductions with hiring decision makers every single day. And we position your business as being number one in that market. So we get more qualified leads, we have increased brand awareness, we grow a massive database list of targeted, active decision makers. And we also source hard to find candidates. So at the end of the day, whether it's a candidate or client, we get them on the phone with these individuals. We get them on the phone with decision makers that can actually want to be on the phone with them. And I think that's the biggest shift that we can make in this industry, right? So many people smile and dial and cold call. And I'm not saying it's not 100% effective. If it wasn't effective, people wouldn't still be doing it. However, people are changing, and that method of approach is not as warmly received, not like it ever has been overly. But there's a more effective way of doing that. It's getting on the phone with people that actually want to be on the phone with. And I think that's usually the biggest shock that my clients have is, wow, that guy actually wanted to talk to me. So those are the types of changes that my clients see when they're working with me. So clearly, there's absolutely nothing for you to lose to have a strategy session with me. So please, take the time, click the link below, and let's get started. And we will make some headway together in your business. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And, I really do look forward to our strategy session together. Again, there's absolutely no risk for you to do that. It's probably one of the more valuable, 30 to 45 minutes you can invest in your business today, because you'll have a very clear vision of where you want to go, what your challenges are, and the action steps, to take to get you to your next level. If you like this, go ahead and click that link below, and I will talk with you soon. Thank you very much.